Hello everyone, welcome to another video. In today's video, I would like to talk about the site reliability engineer roadmap that I followed to crack a product-based company and get a remote job as well. So as you can see on my screen, this is actually a medium.com article which is already published. So you can take a look at this article as well. But whatever information is given here, I'm going to give it across to you in a GitHub repo. The repo URL will be there in the description of this video. Okay, so let's get started. So as you can see, this is just a diagram which is going to give you a very high level overview of what exactly you need to learn and in what order. So you can take a look at this also, but we'll go through the details of this article so that we are able to understand everything pretty well, and we are able to follow it as well. So I know there are a lot of people who have created a lot of different SRE roadmaps, and those actually are pretty impressive. But what I have done is I have just included a lot of extra things which you may not find in all these SRE roadmaps. Okay, so it's going to be slightly different to what you would have seen earlier. Okay, because here I'm going to talk about all the practical things, the things that actually matter, which you will not find in any book or any textbook or any other article or blog. In general, I'm talking about, because this is the exact thing that I followed and I was able to get the job. All right, so I'll start with the very basics. So if your goal is to clear SRE interviews and survive the job once you get it, okay, so this is pretty important. You can, I mean, somehow you may be able to crack SRE interviews, but what about doing the day-to-day job? Okay, so you have to prepare yourself for that also, because if you haven't been an been an SRE and somehow you are able to get the job, you have to survive those day-to-day tasks also. Okay, so this roadmap is going to give you just enough information to cover this part as well. Okay, so what SRE interviews really look for you, really look for. Before we go technical, let's align on reality. Okay, so SRE interviews are not going to test you on how many tools you know, how many certifications you have, how fancy your resume looks. Okay, because tools may change. In my last company, I was using different tools than what I'm using in my current company. Okay, so tools like come and go, but the fundamentals or the basics, they remain with you, and those are the things that actually matter. So whatever tool you get, you're going to get used to it in some days, but your fundamentals are going to help you a lot using those tools with all the interface, all the different options you have. So this is one of the most important things. So don't just stick to any tools. Okay, always just try to be strong on your fundamentals part, your basics part, so that whatever tool you get in any in whatever company, you are able to adjust to it. Then certifications. Okay, I'm not against certifications as well. It's going to give you some add-on advantages as well, but it's not going to matter much. Okay, if you have the knowledge, once again, if you have really strong fundamentals, okay, then your certifications are not going to matter to you as well. But still, if you are certified, it's going to give you some advantage over other candidates. Okay, and once again, your resume can have like 50 different things, but it won't matter if you're not able to explain in the interview. Okay, so SRE interviews are going to test you. How do you think during a failure? Okay, this is where your SRE skills are actually tested. So whether you understand systems end to end, if you can debug under pressure. Okay, if you're troubleshooting a very high priority issue, you are under pressure. So if you're able to debug that issue, that's what matters in SRE roles basically. Okay, so after you get the job, this is what you have to be a part of. Okay, and then whether you can design reliable systems, of course. Okay, so we do system designing as well, okay, as part of SRE. So once again, I think it will depend from company to company, from project to project where you're working. Not every company will give you the option to do system designing, but in some cases you may get it. Okay, so yeah, so everything in this roadmap is going to support all that which I just spoke about. So we should always start with networking fundamentals, which are non-negotiable. Okay, so every production issue eventually touches networking. If you skip this, you will struggle later. So I know this path is slightly longer than what you would have seen earlier, but if you want to go a long way, this is what you have to follow. Okay, so this is what I followed. So learn about OSI model on all 7 layers, not just names. There's one video which I've already done on OSI model. I'm going to give the URL of that video also in the description of this video. You can go through that. I have an entire playlist actually where I'm covering some of the fundamentals of networking, the basic terms, the Linux fundamentals. All that is part of that playlist. So I'm going to give you that playlist URL as well, so you can go through it. Okay, so apart from OSI model, once again, a very important thing to understand is TCP versus UDP. Okay, very commonly used at a lot of places in our work and often asked in the interview also. Then IP addressing basics you should know. You should know subnetting, CIDR, what is the meaning of these terms, how to do subnetting. Then the routing concepts. Okay, you should know the difference between switch uh, and a router. Then NAT and PAT, how DNS works. Once again, I have a video for DNS also where I am explaining about the fundamentals, how it works. I'm also covering a lot of terms. And here I've taken the reference as AWS's Route 53 service. So you can watch that video as well. Once again, I'm going to put the URL of that video in the description of this video. So all these are like the bare minimum things, or you can say the prerequisites that you need for an SRE role, basically. Okay. Then ARC concept, ICMP and ping, load balancing basics you should know. We have L4 and L7 load balancers, so we should know about it. Then we should have some fundamental knowledge about firewalls also. Okay. What happens when you have a latency or you are seeing any packet loss in networking? So all that we should be ready for. Then interview reality, as I mentioned, many application issues are actually DNS routing or firewall problems. So all this is pretty important uh, to be able to debug all these type of issues. Then step 2 is going to be uh, get the concepts right around compute, storage, and databases. Okay, a lot of people I have seen, they start they start with any cloud platform like AWS or Azure straight away, but you should really know these things before you can start that. Okay, so those are only for the people who understand these things well. Okay, only then you will be able to absorb all the information when you start any cloud platform learning. So compute, storage, and databases, once again, it's like one of the most important things that you should understand. So in compute, I've just made a list of a few important topics like bare metal versus virtual machines, what are hypervisors, cores versus threads, clock speed, CPU saturation. There are a few more also, but these are some of the things that you should be understanding well. In storage, you should understand the 3 types of storage. Block storage, I've given example also, EBS in AWS. Then for file storage, you have EFS. For object storage, we know S3, simple storage services there in AWS. So you should understand what's the meaning of these 3 types of storage, where these are used. Okay, so yeah. And once again, I have video for this also, so I'm going to put that in the in this video description. Then IOPS versus throughput, very important concept if you want to understand how storage performance works. Latency trade-offs, local versus network attached storage, some fundamentals around logical volume management. In databases, you should know the basic difference between relational and NoSQL databases, where you should be using relational databases as compared to where you should be using the NoSQL databases. What are indexing, okay, and why they matter. What is the meaning of connection pooling? What is the meaning of red replicas? How do you take backups? How do you restore from a backup in a database? Uh, what is the meaning of slow queries and logs? So you should understand these things on a very high level. So this knowledge is going to help you debug a lot of performance issues instead of guessing them. Okay. Once again, it will depend on your role. If you have like too many things to do in databases, but in some roles you may be doing a lot in databases as compared to some other companies. So it will really depend. But if you have some basic understanding of all these things, it's going to help you in the long run. Then you should start with Linux fundamentals, or you can say Linux administration basically. Okay, so Linux, as we know, it's the heart of everything. Everything sits on top of Linux operating system only in the DevOps world. So this is where you should start your Linux fundamental journey as well. Okay, so once again, this is not optional. This is like the core skill as an SRE or a DevOps engineer that you should be understanding well. So core concepts, how this OS actually works, how it boots up, all the different file system hierarchy and other things. So you should know all that. Kernel versus user space. What do you understand by a shell and a terminal? Okay, we should know uh, what is a bash shell. So all that you should understand. Then some of the daily commands or the commonly used commands like ls, cd, cp, mv, rm, mkdir, touch, etc. Some really good commands which are used in scripting a lot, like grep, awk, and z command. Okay, so all these things are important, like, and then find command, xargs, some how to check processes, how to check cpu utilization of different processes using top, edge top, df, du, free command. Okay, and some other commands related to troubleshooting and checking the sockets or the open ports. So for that you have netstat, ss, lsof, list of open files. Then the text editors, Vim is pretty important, but you should have some knowledge about Nano also. And there's more, as I mentioned, there are a lot of things, but if you just you can refer to my Linux fundamental course, Linux for DevOps course, which is going to give you just enough information to get started with it, or you can look for the resources also. There you will find all the basic commands, all the daily commands that uh, uh, a site reliability engineer usually uses. Okay, then you should understand file system permission, file system and permission. So your Linux directory structure, your file permissions, some important commands like chmod, chown, umask, special permissions, suid, sgid, sticky bit, user management in Linux. Okay, so once again, it depends where you work. Where you work, you may not use these things on a lot, but sometimes these things can be asked in the interview. Okay, then services and packages, systemd basics. What is a service? How do you use yum or dnf for package management? Okay, you can also include apt here for Ubuntu systems. Ubuntu, yeah. So package managers, you should know how to install, configure, how to search for some packages. Okay, all that. Then basics of processes. Then in Linux networking and access, SSH, which is like one of the most important things, because you will be using it for sure. You cannot work in an SRE role without understanding SSH, and especially key-based authentication, which is used in production systems. So you should understand that. The concept of authorized underscore keys file, known underscore host file, SCP and rsync. Okay, HTTP and HTTPS. So I have a few videos that you can go through to understand these especially. Okay, so yeah. Then practical services. So you should know how to configure a simple web server like Apache on a Linux operating system. You should know how to install and configure MySQL with the very basic configurations. Okay, so all this is like the prerequisites. Okay, then you should know the concept of cron jobs, how a log rotation works. Okay, all that you need. In terms of scripting, I would say at least learn Bash. Okay, if possible, learn Python as well, because Python is used for a lot of complex automation scripts. But Bash is like the bare minimum that you should know. Okay, then performance and troubleshooting basics. So this is where you start thinking like an SRE. So this is the core. Okay, core means this is where your work will revolve around. Okay, in your day-to-day work. Okay, the performance and troubleshooting basics. So you should know how to investigate if you see a high CPU usage or memory leaks, any disk full issues. Okay, your file system getting full, slow IO. You have some network latency reported. You have some zombie processes. So all that you should be able to investigate and understand load average, swap usage, kernel tuning basics, sysctl parameter high level. Okay, some of the things are high level because you don't have to go too much into it. Okay, you don't have to spend too much time, but you should have some basic idea. If someone asks you in an interview that how do you do kernel tuning, you should know like a few things about it. Interviewers are going to love these scenarios. Okay, Then step 5 is cloud fundamentals. Here I'm taking AWS, but it can be any cloud. It can be Azure, GCP, or some other cloud as well. But here I'm just focusing on AWS. So you know that whatever you are learning, you're going to deploy or you're going to use a platform. Some cloud platform will be there where you are going to deploy the resources for a company. So this is where your platform lies. Okay, so you should understand your platform where you are doing all the work. So uh, in compute, if I talk about in AWS, you have EC2 instances, you have Amazon Machine Images, which is like the template to create EC2 instances. You have Elastic Block Store Volumes, Security Groups Basics, Elastic Network Interfaces, Elastic IPs, then pricing models of EC2 instances, instance types in EC2 instances. So all that you should understand. So once again, I have a deep dive video on EC2 if you want to go through that to understand all that. So it's all covered there. Auto scaling groups, launch templates, lambda functions, state machine step functions. So this is I'm yet to cover, but I'm going to come up with a video where I'm going to cover a lot of basics. I'm going to talk about some real world production stuff, okay, around this, where you can use it, some use cases, some production use cases. So I'm going to talk about that. Apart from that, I have videos on auto scaling groups and launch templates as well, so you can go through that. Then networking and content delivery in AWS, virtual private cloud, which is where you will be deploying your resources once again. So in AWS, the most important networking concept is VPC, virtual private cloud. Once again, you cannot work in AWS without understanding VPC, so you should learn that. Then subnets, route tables, internet gateways, NAT gateways, some fundamentals about transient gateways also. You should understand how endpoints work, security groups. In security groups, you have implicit deny, explicit allow. What's the difference between the two? Then network access control lists. What's the meaning of stateless and stateful firewalls? You know that NACL is a stateless firewall. Security group is stateful. Okay, so you should know the difference between the two. So once again, I have a video on VPC where I've covered all this. Load balancers. You have four load balancers in AWS, but two are the most important ones: application load balancer and network load balancer. Apart from that, you also have a gateway load balancer and classic load balancers that are not supremely important, but you should have you should at least know the names, that there are four types of load balancers in AWS. Then API gateways, high level overview is required. So on a high level, you should understand what's the meaning of API gateways. Then for your content delivery, you should learn a few basics around CloudFront. You also have another very important service here, which is called Cloudflare, which is not in AWS, but Cloudflare is also really popular CDN service apart from CloudFront in AWS. Okay, so you should know at least one. Then for DNS, we use Route 53. So some fundamentals around the DNS concepts and how Route 53 works and the different routing policies you should understand. Storage, in storage, once again, EBS, EFS, S3. Then storage gateways you should understand. In databases, so once again, in databases there are a lot of different services, but you should not learn all, but you should have some understanding of uh, Aurora and RDS and some DynamoDB. So these are the basic minimum, like basic services that you should understand. Okay, especially RDS you should know really well in deep. You should know about Aurora concept and some high level understanding of DynamoDB is more than sufficient. Then Elastic Cache also you should have some high level understanding how it works. Then security, identity, and compliance. You need to understand the fundamentals of users, roles, and policies, how permissions, boundaries, control IAM policies. Okay. Then STS for assume role in security, identity, and compliance. So it's actually part of IAM only, but yeah, it is really important to understand how STS works. What's the concept of least privilege? How secrets manager work? The concept of key management service. Then you should also understand WAF, which stands for Web Application Firewall. Okay, once again, not you don't have to go too much deep into it, but some high level understanding of WAF, but some understanding of all these services. Okay, and this you should understand really well. This and this especially. Okay, IAM users, roles, policies, and permissions, boundaries, and STS. Then secrets manager, KMS, and WAF, some understanding of it, some high level understanding. Okay, is really crucial. Then analytics, once again, this is optional service, not supremely important, but If you work in a product based company, I think you would be using it, okay, in some project or the other. So Kinesis, once again, some high level understanding of this service is like more than sufficient to so here you don't have to understand it in deep, but some just have some high level understanding of how Kinesis services work. Okay. Then application integration in you should understand Event Bridge, very important service used a lot in your day to day work. SNS, which stands for Simple Notification Service, and SQS, which is used for queuing your messages, and step function. So these are, I would say, try to do one project, okay, where you're using all these services to get the understanding. Once again, very important for event based I mean, architectures, or you can say event driven work basically. So there you will use all this. So very important concept. Along with that, you will also have lambda function also. Did I mention lambda anywhere? Should be in EC2. Yeah, lambda. Yeah. So you should understand all these things. Okay, it's pretty important. Okay, you cannot. I mean, this is not optional. Okay, this is not option. You should have a very good understanding of it. And to get the understanding, try to do a project. Okay, on this uh, to get the better understanding of this service. Then containers. So I'm talking about the container services in AWS. So just ensure that you only cover these after you understand the fundamentals of containers and container orchestration with Kubernetes. So you need to learn ECR, Elastic Container Registry, where you store your container images, ECS, Elastic Container Service, and EKS, which is the Kubernetes implementation on AWS, Elastic Kubernetes Service. Okay, so all these three are pretty important. Once again, one of the most important services, if you are working in an AWS based SRE role, you cannot do without these. Okay, especially EKS and ECR. Okay, ECS may be optional for you, but ECR and EKS are the most important services for AWS SRE roles. Okay, but you should only cover after you understand the fundamentals around container and container orchestration. Then observability in AWS, you can use CloudWatch logs, metrics, and alarms. Once again, I have a video on these. You can go through that. Okay, it's going to give you just enough information to cover all the fundamentals you need. Then you should know how traffic flows inside AWS. This is critical. Okay, so once again, this is about AWS services basically. Then step 6, you have to understand the fundamentals around container and Docker. Okay, once again, I have a series of videos. I think I have 4 or 5 videos which covers the fundamentals of containers. Okay, it covers the container images, the basic commands, volumes, networking. Then I've done some 3 tier deployment projects as well that you can go through to understand the fundamentals of Docker. Okay, Docker or containers in general. So you must understand what containers actually are, image versus containers, how a Docker file is built, some best practices to optimize your Docker image. Okay, to do that, you have to optimize your Docker file as well. So Docker file best practices, uh, the layers of a container image, how volumes work, uh, networking modes, resource limits, and containers. So all this is pretty important to understand. Then you should be comfortable debugging any container crashes. Okay, how to check the logs. So you should understand that how to check image build failures or any port issues, any permission issues. So you should be able to comfortable. I mean, you should be comfortable doing all this. Okay, so as I mentioned, it takes time. It's not like a 1 day, 2 day thing. It takes time, but if you want to go long way, it's like very important to learn all these things. Then step 7 is Kubernetes, where SRE interviews get serious. Okay, of course, if you are preparing for SRE interviews, you will have a few questions around Kubernetes also. So this is a core SRE skill today. You must understand the architecture of Kubernetes to get started with it. Then the different components of its architecture, like API server, scheduler, controller manager, kube proxy, kubelet, all you should understand. Okay, all you should be able to explain in an interview. Then etcd basics, what are nodes and pods. Then if I talk about some core objects and concepts, pods, deployments, stateful sets, services, config maps, secrets, ingress, secrets. Sorry, okay, I've written it twice, but I'll just edit it. Let me, okay, I'll correct it. And There's more like pod disruption budgets, admission controllers, keyword no. Okay, then you have custom resource definitions, service HTO mesh, network policies, priority classes, how DNS works in Kubernetes, what are static pods, Helm charts, persistent volume claims. I know, I mean, Kubernetes is so vast. Okay, there are so many things, but these are some of the things that you should really understand. At least on a very high level, you should know a few things, and the core component you should know in deep. Okay, so service HTO mesh, network policies, priority classes, DNS, static pods, Helm charts, PVCs, storage classes for dynamic volume provisioning, probes, role-based access control, taints and tolerations, init containers, node selector, node affinity. All this you need to understand, guys. Okay. So yeah, because in the interview, any question can be asked from these. Okay, you may not use all these things when you're working, but for interview point of view, you should learn all these things. Resource quotas, requests, limits, then horizontal pod autoscalers, cluster autoscaler. How do you upgrade your clusters? Okay, I uh, I have a video on how do a production Kubernetes cluster looks like. Okay, so you can go through that video as well to understand how a production cluster actually is. Okay, so as I mentioned, I wish I could list all the topics. Practically not possible as it's an endless technology, but there are some of them that you would need to learn. Then troubleshooting some of the common known errors in Kubernetes like pod not starting, crash loop backoffs, image pull backoffs, pending pods, node issues, resource exhaustion, out of memory killed issues. So all these are known errors and a lot often asked in the interviews, and often you will see in real world also. Okay, we work on these issues a lot, so you should have some. I mean, you should know how to troubleshoot these issues and explain also in interviews your troubleshooting steps. Know how to read logs, describe resources, trace failures across layers. Okay, then CI/CD pipelines, real production flow, which happens. So this is where you should know how to fix a broken pipeline. Okay, so you should understand Git workflows, the difference between CI and CD, the different pipeline stages you should be explaining, and you should be able to explain in the interview. So once again, I have two videos on this, so you can go through that to understand all this in much more detail. How you are going to explain your pipeline stages in an interview, and what are artifacts. What is the meaning of promoting your build to higher environments, so from dev to QA to prod, so that environment promotion you should be able to explain. Then you should be having some hands-on experience with GitLab CI pipelines, build failures, test failures, image push failures, deployment rollbacks. All this is configurable in your home laptop to understand all. Okay, so it's all available to you. Automation and infrastructure as code. So as I mentioned, you will be doing a lot of automation. You will be writing a lot of infrastructure as code scripts in Terraform basically. So you should understand that as well. So bash scripting is, as I mentioned, is the bare minimum thing in scripting you should know. But if possible, learn Python as well for automation. Then Ansible for configuration management, some basic understanding is required. Then Terraform for infrastructure provisioning. Okay, so read Terraform plans, debug failed applies, handle state issues, design reusable modules. And in Terraform, there are a lot of things like you should understand uh, Terraform modules. Okay, how Terraform works, state file locking, uh, for each. Okay, then there are Terraform workspaces. Okay, Terraform provisioners. Okay, all that you should understand. Okay, I'm going to update this. I'll update all that as well. I think I forgot to mention, but yeah. Okay, handle state issues, design reusable modules. Then GitOps and continuous delivery. You should understand GitOps principles, declarative deployments, Argo CD workflows, drift detection, rollbacks. This is frequently discussed in senior level interviews. Observability, once again, a very important SRE skill. So you should understand the difference between logs, metrics, and alerts. Okay, so observability separates juniors from real SREs. So you should know what to log and what not to log. Linux logging basics, CloudWatch logs and metrics, Prometheus metrics, long-term metric storage, log aggregation, dashboarding and alerting. Okay, So I have a video on this also to understand, to make you understand this in production, how it looks. I have a video on CloudWatch logs and metrics as well. I have a video on Linux logging basics as well. Okay, so you can go through that, or you can refer to other resources as well. Understand alert fatigue and why alerts should wake people only when needed. Okay, so once again, I have a video on this also. How do you configure uh, on-call configuration for SRE, engineers for high priority incidents? So I have a video on that also. Uh, I have an article as well on medium.com just on that. Then reliability engineering concepts. Now, once again, this is all related to SRE only. Like you should know the concept of SLA, SLI, SLO, error budgets, burn rate alerts. Okay, should be able to explain these things in the interviews. Define how to define SLO. How do you monitor them? Act when they are breached. Interviewers love real examples here. Okay. Then advanced troubleshooting. If I talk about, I'm talking about we should be comfortable troubleshooting Kubernetes deployments, CI/CD pipelines, Terraform failures, any production outages, partial service degradation. Always think, where's the failure? What changed? How do I confirm the hypothesis? Okay. Then another thing that has been added uh, from the last few years is use of AI tools and prompt engineering, which I use a lot, and all my team members and other colleagues in the company use it. Okay, so once again, this is not optional. You should be able to uh, use AI tools for debugging, so that you are able to efficiently in small amount of time you are able to do a lot of work using AI tools. Okay, so this is again a very critical skill. So you should be comfortable writing prompts on AI tools like ChatGPT or Copilot. So use AI tools for debugging, write effective prompts, validate your AI output, speed up investigations without blindly trusting. Okay, used correctly, this boosts productively your productivity a lot. Okay, so once again, as I mentioned, you're going to be using a lot of AI tools to do uh, a lot of work in small amount of time. Okay, so that's where your productivity increases when you are able to comfortably use AI tools. So once again, this is not optional. This is one of the most important skills in today's world, especially if you are in SRE. I mean, if you are an SRE or a DevOps engineer as well, or a cloud engineer. Okay, so but if I just want to summarize, the most important skill is your mindset, because this matters more than any tool. So you must believe that I can solve any complex problem if I break it down logically, because in day-to-day world you will be seeing a lot of new things coming to you, a lot of new challenges where you will be given to research a lot. So whatever problem is, if you have the right mindset, you will be able to crack that. Okay, so that's the mindset you need as an SRE. So SRE is a constantly changing role. Tools evolve, systems change, outages don't follow scripts. Okay, so you can create a lot of documentation, but those it doesn't work when a high priority incident is reported to you. Okay, you don't even remember these different scripts that are created. Okay, those does not matter in a lot of cases basically. So it's going to be a very dynamic role where you should be able to adjust really well. Okay, so that you are able to solve any complex problem that is given to you. Your confidence comes from fundamentals and practice, not memorization. Okay, then final thoughts. This roadmap is not short. I know it's not easy, but it's going to work if you are able to prepare in this way, and you're going to go a long way. Okay, I followed this exact path. It helped me crack interviews, handle real outages, and grow as an SRE. So yeah, that's all I wanted to cover. I hope this video was useful to you. If you have any queries, any doubts, anything you want to ask, please put the question in the comment section. I'm going to answer all your queries. Okay. And if you like this video, please hit the like button. Please share this with your friends and colleagues, and please do subscribe to my channel. All right, guys, that's all for this one, and I'm going to see you in the next one. Bye for now.